Hey guys, Tyrantt here. So that was my IGOW5 week 1 video submission showing off the Hummingbird V4 from Newbie Drone. This little whoop is a lot of fun and it is built to take hits like a tank. So let's do a quick little mini review to show you guys what this is all about. So before we talk about the drone itself, let's talk about what comes with the drone. So one of the first things you're going to be pulling out of the package is a spare set of propellers, a tool to remove those propellers from the motors, a spare 3D printed camera holder, instructions on how to connect your drone to your radio controller, an extra set of screws, and some high quality stickers to go with it. Now let's talk about what makes up the Hummingbird V4 bind and fly. So to start, we have the Hummingbird V4 flight controller, which has two antennas connected to it, the shorter one being the video transmitter and the longer one being for the receiver. And then we have a pH 2.0 LiPo connector as well. Then we have the Goober canopy, which is attached to the 3D printed camera holder, and that is attached to the BI camera. One thing that's really cool about this combo is that it actually allows you to adjust your camera angle between what looks like 60 degrees and probably -5. So it gives you a really wide range of camera angles to utilize. And this is really cool because if you're a newer pilot and you want to take things slow, you're going to reduce your camera angle closer to like 10 degrees. And this is really going to slow things down for you while you learn throttle control and how to navigate around your yard. And then as you build up your confidence, you can slowly increase the camera angle to speed things up. Then we have the Aussie 31 millimeter propellers, and those are connected to the Newbie Drone 0702 30,000 kV motors. And you might recognize these motors from the race spec. But one thing that makes them different is that they use the traditional motor wires with motor plugs as well. And this makes it really easy for beginners who might break a motor to easily swap out a motor by just removing the 3 screws and then unplugging from the flight controller. And then everything that I just said is housed inside of the Cockroach V3 ultralight frame. It's called the ultralight, but while it may have at one point been ultralight, newer frames nowadays weigh a lot less than this. But what makes this frame special is how durable it is. As you can see, I've put this through a lot already. I got grass stains all around. You can kind of see some like white flexion points where, you know, kind of bent in a crash. And it is alive and kicking. I haven't broken it anywhere, not just the frame, but the canopy itself. So this bind and fly is a really durable bind and fly. And we'll talk about that more in a little bit. Let's check out the weight. All right, so my scale is showing 19.87 grams. While this bind and fly is probably about 2 to 3 grams heavier than some of the more modern bind and flies, the extra weight goes right into the durability of this whole thing, which is what really makes it special. It might not be as fast and might not be as responsive, but having the confidence of crashing and knowing your drone is not going to break anytime soon it's really comforting. I have crashed this into concrete, trees, the side of my house, into my car, and I've probably done more damage to my property than I've done to this drone. So that extra weight is honestly pretty worth it if you would rather have durability over high speed performance. One thing that also makes it really special is the VTX. It has a feature called the Smart Max, and what it does is if the flight controller detects that the signal is pretty good and it's not overheating, it'll actually increase the VTX output from 25 to 100 or even 400 milliwatts. And this is pretty cool because as long as everything is cool, if it detects your signal strength is starting to get weaker, but the temperatures are fine, it's going to kick it up, which means you're going to have a lot more consistently clear VTX signal. So, if you're like flying around your house or there's a lot of trees, you don't have to worry about getting a lot of static. If it's really hot outside and, everything's starting to overheat, it'll actually bump it down as a way to kind of preserve all of your components and prevent everything from overheating. And finally, it's worth pointing out that this bind and fly does not come with any lipos. So if you want to utilize this pH 2.0 connector, I would recommend picking up some Nitro Nectar Gold 300 mAh lipo sticks. And that about covers it as far as what makes the Hummingbird V4 the Hummingbird V4. So why don't we check out some flight footage of me flying outside? All right, so yeah, that was actually pretty fun to fly around. On average, I was getting right around a minute 45 to 2 minutes of flight time, but which is a little bit less than usual. All right, so that was actually pretty fun. On average, I was getting around a minute 45 to 2 minutes of flight time, which is about 30 to 60 seconds less than the newbie drone race spec. But that's because it's a lot heavier than the race spec. Me personally, it's heavier than I like, but this drone isn't made for me. This drone is made for newer pilots who are looking to build their confidence without worrying about breaking their drone. And this drone does just that. It is very durable. Like I said, I have crashed it, bashed it, smashed it into concrete, the side of my house, my cars, and it is alive and kicking. I haven't broken anything on it. And it's a great drone for beginners. I will definitely give it that. But nothing is perfect, and it does have a few downfalls that I would like to point out. First of all, while the camera angle is really cool, how it's adjustable, it's held in place by friction. And the reason I'm not entirely a big fan of that is because if you have a really hard crash, which I've had multiple times, it'll actually change the camera angle on you. Sometimes it changes just a little and I can normally fly through it, but sometimes it'll go all the way down like this and then I'll have to land and then pull it back up to fix it. I'm used to 30 degrees. So for me, I can easily kind of put it in place, eyeball it, and to me that looks about 30 degrees. I don't know. Someone fact check me there. Another thing that I'm not entirely a big fan of is that there's not a lot of protection for the camera. You can see that it sticks out rather than being encased inside of the canopy. And because of that, I have scratch the lens a little bit because when I fly, I am not careful and I'm not afraid to go into concrete. So unfortunately, I've had some concrete add just a tiny, tiny, tiny little scratch to the lens, and it is kind of noticeable at times. Other times, not so much. And finally, the battery connector, the PH 2.0. PH 2.0s are pretty outdated, and I've seen a lot of comments online of people asking about why these are still in use, and I honestly agree. These are pretty obsolete. They did hold up pretty well with the bind and fly drone and using the Nitro Nectar Golds. But if you want a little bit more power and flight time, I would recommend upgrading the pigtail to a BT 2.0 or an A30 connector. But in order to do that, you do have to have some soldering skills. So if you don't know how to solder, I would recommend asking a friend or colleague or someone who might know. Or if you just don't care and you like it how it is, keep using the PH 2.0 connectors. Um, that it was fun. Every flight that I've done with this has been with the PH 2.0 connector, and it it is a fun drone. So if you don't want to mess with soldering, it's still a good option. And if you want to upgrade it as well, there's a few things that you could do. Um, I would not recommend upgrading the frame or canopy. The big appeal about this bind and fly is the durability, and these two things offer the most protection. So I would personally keep those. Um, one thing I would recommend changing out is probably the propellers. They were great, don't get me wrong. But if you want propellers that are just a little bit more durable or just a little bit less prone to bending, I would recommend checking out GymFan 1219S propellers. And then another thing I would recommend upgrading is probably the canopy. You could probably switch it to a Mobulus 6 canopy with a 3D printed TPU holder. That way you can fully encase the camera without having to worry about scratching it. You could also pick up a newbie drone, one of their other goober type canopies, where it's a fixed camera angle. So I think it sits roughly around 15-20 degrees. So it's 1 degree. It's only one option. You can't change the degree of it, but it fully encases a camera and helps keep it protected. And then one last thing I want to mention before I wrap this up. The tune out of the box, it's mostly there, but it's not perfect. There's 3 things I highly recommend you change out of the box. So you're going to take a USB connector, a USB to a micro USB connector, and you're going to connect it to Betaflight. You're going to go to the PIDs tab, and you're going to change the dynamic idle from 180 down to 40. You're going to change the D value to 1.2. And finally, you're going to remove the throttle expo. If you do these 3 things, it's going to make this feel a lot lighter than it does out of the box. So it's going to be a lot more enjoyable experience if you change those 3 things. And a big shout out to MoFPV, who was the one who informed me of these changes. And I can confirm these changes do make a big difference. I've mentioned it a few times already. This drone is definitely made for beginners who want to build confidence and learning how to fly. Maybe you don't have a simulator or a computer, so you don't have that opportunity to practice without breaking stuff. So if you're one of those people or you're one of those people who just want to get out there and fly, you just want to completely skip the simulator, this is a great drone to start with because of how durable it is. But yeah, and for the price point, it's really good. At launch, it was $80, but due to the tariffs, there have been a little bit of a price increase. I believe it's currently now running around $105. That price may go up or down by the time you watch this video. And yeah, that about wraps it up. Like I said, I've had a lot of fun with this. It does a really good job freestyling outside, as you saw from my example videos. If you're interested in picking one up, please use my affiliate link down in the YouTube description below, or you can find it on prowhooper.com. It helps me out, it helps keep me in the air, and helps me with creating content like this. So definitely, I encourage you to pick one up if you're looking to buy something that is fun and enjoyable. So with that being said, have fun, happy whooping, and Tyrantt out.